Well, I like petting and snuggling and playing with my cats. Their claws, not necessarily my favorite part of their anatomy, but claws are essential to who cats are because they're natural climbers and predators. Well, we can accept our cats, every bit of them. Have you had trouble with cat claws at your house? Have you been scratched or your furniture damaged? Let me know. Type it into the comment line. Give me your questions. Ooh, and Cindy, you're here. Wonderful. Thanks for coming as always. And by the way, anybody else who is tuning in, please tell me you're here. Tell me where you're from. And if you find this information helpful, send me some hearts just so that I know I'm being useful. And if you can hear me loud and clear, hit the wow button just so that we know that the microphone's working. And in case we have not met, I'm veterinarian Dr. Jeff Nickel. I'm residency trained in veterinary behavior medicine with many years of experience in general practice. And I have cats climbing around here. This is Miss America, by the way, the Nickel family border collie. This is Gaston. And yes, he's a little bit spooky. That's just part of who he is. And here's Tony, a little bit more even-tempered, part of who they are. I'd like to know if you've been scratched or bitten. Well, biting too, although it's not a claw thing. We're here to talk about getting scratched and, the option in some places of declawing and how we can avoid that and why it's really not necessary anymore because we know so much about behavior, a lot of research. And in fact, what I'd like to do is start by reading you a story, not written by me. Very often I share a newspaper column, a question I've answered in the Albuquerque Journal, or I talk about a case that I've seen. Well, this is definitely a case that I have seen, but this account is written by this cat's person. It's Rita, and her husband is Rob, and I met them many years ago with Kitty Girl, and here's the story. And written by Rita, very well written, and it starts out with the attack. After 3 months in our new home, I walked by her, snoozing peacefully under the dining room table. Minutes later, as I brushed my teeth in the master bath, I felt something hit the back of my leg. Seemingly out of nowhere, Kitty Girl had clamped on tight with her jaws. Once I pushed her off, she repeated a pattern of attack and retreat for the next 15 minutes. Eyes dilated to complete blackness, ears back, and growling. Between assaults, I managed to stop the bleeding at the back of my leg, place all of her things in a spare bedroom, lure her in with some canned salmon, and close the door. During the whole attack that night, Kitty Girl looked miserable. She was panting between growls, and her body posture was completely defensive, as if she was the one under attack. It was heart-wrenching to see this beautiful cat so out of control. Kitty Girl clearly needed help, and so did we. Well, let me show you a picture of Kitty Girl. I mean, this really is a beautiful cat. I mean, she's just gorgeous, isn't she? And she had a very sweet side to her. But this was a challenging behavior case, and I was so glad they brought Kitty Girl in because it was an opportunity to give service. But I'm so often touched by the kindness of my clients because they could have taken a different direction with this cat. They needed help. They recognized that Kitty Girl was miserable, and they wanted to help her feel better. And that's pretty serious kindness considering the damage that she'd already done. So getting help. The next day, my husband phoned several veterinary offices, most of which were at a loss as to how they could help since Kitty Girl wasn't having a medical issue. We finally found one office that referred us to Dr. Jeff Nickel, who specializes in behavior medicine. After a 2-hour consultation and a thorough medical exam, Dr. Nickel diagnosed Kitty Girl with fear aggression with secondary redirected aggression toward me, Rita. He advised it would take some work, probably for the rest of her life, but there was hope that we could help her. And, in behavior medicine, unlike general practice, surgery, dermatology, internal medicine, those other areas, and I have treated cases in every specialty throughout my career. We got cures sometimes. We put an end to the problem. With behavior disorders, we generally improve them, but they're typically a lifelong challenge. Well, Dr. Nickel prescribed a combination of medication and behavioral therapy to help her be less fearful, calm herself more quickly when she gets upset, and learn that I wasn't such a bad person to have around. Kitty Girl was started on an anti-anxiety medication, which was adjusted after a few weeks to best manage her aggression while minimizing side effects. We changed her environment to include the addition of feel-away diffusers, like this. Now let me turn the camera around so you can see the label on it. Feel away. There you go. Feel away. There, you can see that more easily. Isabella, thank you for coming too. I'm delighted to have you here as well. So, this plugs into a wall outlet. It's like a room freshener. The fluid inside lasts for about 30 days. It has no smell. Cats don't even notice it in the air, but it triggers a reduced anxiety, and it has a calming effect. It's not the end-all and be-all for behavior disorders by any means, and it's got to be a pretty minor problem for Feel Away alone to manage the problem, but generally it can be very helpful, again, along with these other things. And Isabella, wonderful, thank you. So, I also recommended an extra litter box and devices around the yard to shoo away any interloping outdoor felines that might be upsetting her. And very often, when cats become aggressive inside and directed toward another pet in the home or toward their people, it's very often because they're stuck inside and they simply are, it's not possible for them to chase off other creatures like other cats that are visiting the yard. And that can put indoor cats in a sense of being trapped and unable to engage the way they naturally should. So we keep our cats indoors to protect them, but there's a flip side to that. And so we had Rita and her husband Rob install something called a scarecrow. It's mounted on a fence. It's motion activated, and you screw a garden hose into it. And so some other creature comes along, could be a wild animal, could be a neighbor cat, and as soon as they trigger the thing by their movement, it hoses them, and that discourages them from showing up. And a cat like Kitty Girl can feel a lot better. So, for 4 weeks, I alone interacted with her. Kitty Girl and I had several play sessions each day with wand toys like Da Bird. And Da Bird's actually, this is not a Da Bird, but this is a toy on a wand that cats find just, it triggers their predatory behavior, which is normal, and you need to engage that. We didn't want Kitty Girl using Rita as a surrogate mouse, did we? So she enjoyed Da Bird, D-A, Bird. I doled out treats when her behavior was calm and ignored her if she started to get what I call twitchy. I also taught her to sit, which she is still good at. If I notice her getting tense about something, I will ask her to sit and give her a treat when she complies. There is a behavioral term for it, and that's called response substitution. But basically, it gives her something else to do so she'll forget why she's mad. With applying medication and behavioral tools, things started to slowly turn around. We could tell Kitty Girl was feeling less fearful and more relaxed, and her aggression levels decreased in turn. And people think, oh, you can't teach cats anything. You certainly can. And come and sit are things that and down, they can get very good at that stuff. And I taught Rita how to teach Kitty Girl to sit because it is something you can do without touching the cat. She can work for food. And when this cat learned that she could earn food from her person who, for whatever the reason, associated Rita with aggression, and her dad, Rita's husband, Rob, Kitty Girl was a daddy's girl. Why that happened, how that happens, we don't know. But we wanted to have Kitty Girl associate a very positive, loving, secure relationship with Rita. And Rita, lady, has a heart of gold. So, based on our experience, we are tried and true believers in seeking professional intervention for behavior problems in pets. We would never have been able to self-diagnose Kitty Girl's fear aggression or have had the knowledge or skills to work with her if we had not had her evaluated and treated by a behaviorist. So, lessons learned from Kitty Girl. You know, we think about what we're going to teach pets and the lessons they need to learn. These are lessons that Rita came away with. It has been over 7 years since she attacked me that evening, and her aggression is now mostly confined to using bad language and a swat or two. We weaned her off the medication 2 years ago, and she is doing well, perhaps because she is much older now, and she has calmed with age, or perhaps she's developed better coping skills, and we are more educated to help her. We still keep a bottle of her medication in the cupboard, just in case she needs a little extra help, but so far so good. Here's another picture of Kitty Girl, by the way. I mean, she's a beauty. Oh, Michelle, hang on a minute, and I will address that question for you. So, last page. Here's another great picture of Kitty Girl. There she is. And by the way, if you saw my promotion on my Facebook page, inviting people to come to this Facebook Live, that was another picture of Kitty Girl. Many people over the years have told me that they would have, quote, put that cat down. I hate hearing that. While the option was discussed with Dr. Nickel, we dismissed it as quickly as it came up. Kitty Girl is family, for better or worse. Over time, I began to think about the saying, we get the pets we need, not necessarily the pets we want. I mused over why I might, quote, need a fear-aggressive ball of claws and fangs in my life, and what Kitty Girl has taught me. And this is the part that has really struck me and stayed with me from Rita. Maybe it's that fear is at the root of anger issues for humans as well, including people in my own life who I have had trouble and difficulty understanding and loving. If I work so hard to find the good in a not always lovable little cat, shouldn't I be working just as hard to find the good in people too? Wow. We can learn from pets. Kitty Girl also has led me to volunteer work at cat rescue. Because of her, I have a soft spot for Maine Coons and for special needs cats. Kitty Girl may not be physically disabled, but her emotional fragility makes her every bit as much a special needs cat. And that cat really is and has been emotionally fragile. And when you are getting attacked from behind, and Kitty Girl inflicted some pretty significant wounds on Rita that night, you naturally think first about your own vulnerability, but when you start to understand the reasons, the motivations behind this kind of aggressive behavior in a cat like Kitty Girl, you realize that she was emotionally damaged as well. And we can help with so many of those. Our Kitty Girl will always have a sassier than most personality, but we hope that our efforts have made her life more happy and secure than it may otherwise have been. As we often say, she's not always a nice kitty, but she's our kitty, and we love her. So, thank you, Carolyn. So anyway, this is just a cardboard box and has some dry food in it. And I wanted to use that as sort of a demonstrator to show people that you don't have to spend money for a cat toy. And with scratching, you know, cats are going to figure out how to get into this thing, and they might scratch at it, and the motion of their paws and the stimulation to their claws can make a very big difference. Okay, so let me get to this question here. Okay, Michelle, I have 7 cats, all rescues, ages 10 to 19. Oh, this is sort of the senior feline citizen group. For the most part, they all get along, but lately they have been bickering. All right, there we go. Bickering. Oh, Tony, come on back there, bud. There we go. They have been bickering. Darn thing, I'm sorry. Here, there we go. Bickering and scratching each other. Any suggestions? Getting rid of them is out of the question, as well it should be. That is exceptionally rare that that's the only way to deal with these things. Really, exceptionally rare. And there can be a lot of reasons why that's going on. And again, just like with Kitty Girl and Rita, Michelle, I would strongly encourage you to watch very carefully at night and see if you have neighbor cats or other wildlife coming by your yard, because your cats can feel agitated indoors and redirect it to each other. So you've got to get that out of the picture. Some cats, neighbor cats, and people like yourself who have the heart to rescue these cats who need homes, sometimes cannot help yourselves but to leave food outside for other cats. And if you're attracting other cats to your yard, then boy, they're really stuck there. And some of
Tony, help Tony, help Tony.
Oh, Tony, did you get stuck, you little character? It didn't seem like he really necessarily needed help, Carolyn. He just looked like it. He looked like he had his head stuck in a box, and I think he did, but he didn't care because he's getting the food. Anyway, some of these stray cats are not neutered, of course, and they're going to urine spray your front door and other parts of your house, and it can drive your indoor cats crazy. And because, again, they're prevented from getting out there and engaging and chasing off these other cats, they can get so agitated that they redirect toward each other. The other thing that I would really encourage you to do, and go to my website, drjeffnicol.com, drjeffnicol.com, and go to Pet Behavior Topics, and then you'll find, it says Behavioral Help is one of the tabs, and click on that, and Behavior Topics, Pet Behavior Topics, and go to Cats, and you'll see in that list feline environmental enrichments. And they are really important, especially with that many cats. Floor-to-ceiling cat trees against windows in at least a couple of rooms in your house make it so much easier for cats to get up high and get out of each other's way. They need vertical real estate. The amount of square footage in your house really isn't a factor. Most of the cat trees you can find in pet supply stores are 4 or 5 feet tall. Floor-to-ceiling. There are people who can build these things for you. Right against a window. On the exterior side of the window, you can get a bird feeder or bird houses from Wild Birds Unlimited that have suction cups you stick to the window. Cats can slather over the birds. But the other thing that's exceptionally important, and a recent research project made this very clear, is the security that cats get with their solitude by hiding out from each other in little hiding locations. Multiple different hide boxes in different rooms at various heights. And you can just use cardboard boxes on shelves if you want to, but the opening to the box needs to be to the side or even toward the wall, so a cat can have to walk behind the box to get in. Not so that the opening is into the room, so that when a cat's inside that box, it doesn't feel like anybody can see it. And those hide boxes, lots of them, different places, and those tall cat trees give these cats chances of getting away from each other and doing some of the things that they naturally need to do. So those are the 3 major pieces of advice that I would give you, Michelle, on that. But you know, back to Kitty Girl and Rita, the thing that really comes through to me, just thinking back on my work to help her and Rob with Kitty Girl, was the kindness that these people showed. And it's the kind of kindness that they showed my staff when they would bring Kitty Girl in. And they're the kind of people where everybody they encounter comes away feeling a bit more peaceful. And you know, they learn lessons in part from their cat. I think they were decent folks anyway, actually. So I'd like to read you something else, very brief this time, from the American Association of Feline Practitioners. This is a group of veterinarians who are specializing in cats or have a practice largely serving cats. And the AAFP is a tremendous source of current information on various different disorders of cats, not just behavioral, but they have a position statement on declawing. And let me just read you a few passages from this, which I couldn't say it better myself. The American Association of Feline Practitioners strongly opposes declawing as an elective procedure. And what that means is that if your cat has a tumor on its foot, it's going to need to lose that toe. If it's got a severe bone infection or a severe injury, sometimes amputation of a toe is the only way to get there. But as an elective procedure to prevent the cat from scratching people or damaging furniture, there's so many other ways of approaching it. The surgical removal of the ends of the toes is just not necessary. So it's important that people understand that scratching is normal feline behavior, both inherited and learned. They learn it from their mothers. And it's essential to maintain necessary claw motion used in hunting and climbing. You think, well, my cat, I feed my cat cat food. He doesn't need to hunt. No, he doesn't need to survive, but he needs to behaviorally. Okay? So, in addition, it is done to reestablish claw sharpness via the husk, the sheath. When they scratch stuff, the sides of the claw get sloughed off, and it sharpens and narrows those claws so that they can use them to kill prey, and they can use them to climb. It's also necessary for visual and olfactory communication. So let me show you something that I have here. Oh my goodness, we just about got all the cat food out of there. This is your garden variety piece of oak. It's a fireplace log. And many times cats will just scratch this. Cat scratchers are great. Sisal rope covered scratching posts are excellent, but every cat's a little different. But this thing right here, let me just show you what I can do with this. This is a product called Felis Scratch. Let me show you this. This is made by Siva Animal Health, the same people who make Feel Away, the pheromone. But Felis Scratch attracts cats to whatever item it is you want them to scratch. And we'll talk in a minute about making their the things you don't want them to scratch like not so fun. But this is what the stuff looks like. It comes in this little applicator here, like this, okay? And you take like a fireplace log, or you could take a cat scratching post. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here, but I'm dribbling this stuff on the post, okay? Or in this case, on the log. And it has a pheromone in there to attract them. It also has catnip. And so you can see Tony here. He's already working on it, because Tony is a guy who just can't get enough catnip, or cat crack, if you will. Anyway, it's a way of attracting them. In fact, let me tell you something else. Here's a study that was done on Felis Scratch. In clinical studies, Felis Scratch attracted more than 80% of cats to use their scratching posts within the first week of use. And more than 90% of cats never started scratching when they were adopted into a home that was already using Felis Scratch. It's avoidance of the problem. It's prevention, which, I think more than an ounce, 1 ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure for this problem. So, a couple more things in the American Association of Feline Practitioners position statement on Declaw. Scratching posts or pads, cardboard boxes, lumber, logs. Okay, scratching materials preferred by cats include wood, sisal rope, carpet, cardboard, and rough fabric. And so you have to experiment with a variety. Place the scratcher near the cat's preferred yet undesirable scratching object, like the, did I turn that off? No, it's on, okay. So for example, if your cat likes to scratch the corner of a sofa, you can put the new preferred thing, scratching post, that you might have treated with the Felis Scratch, and put that right next to the place where you don't want the cat to scratch. And then you take the undesirable scratching area and you make it not that much fun. Like double sticky tape on it, cats hate that. Some people have put aluminum foil on it and taped it on there. Some people have used saran wrap or loose fabric. That kind of thing can be helpful, okay? Environmental enrichment, we mentioned that, like the hide boxes and the tall climbing trees. And realize that sometimes this stuff is related to anxiety and stress, and that we have to understand and deal with that. Now, the surgery itself, there are probably still veterinarians out there willing to do it. It's really fallen into disfavor, and it's not considered anymore, for elective purposes, a ethical procedure. But you may still be able to find a veterinarian or two out there who's willing to do it. But there are risks of complications, including that, by the way, are more prone to occur as the cat gets older. So pain, hemorrhage, that is bleeding at the surgery site, swelling, infection, and nerve trauma. And long-term complications include possible lameness. It's just not something that we really need to do anymore. So let me just tell you a couple of things that you can do. If your cat's sitting in your lap, for example, and you're petting and you start to feel a little bit of tension, there's a tendency to scold that cat and go, okay, no, 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 don't be doing that, that sort of thing. But when we reprimand a pet, we don't do it in a real quiet voice like, Tony, I appreciate it if you don't, slash my leg open. No, instead you get a little agitated with him, right? Well, if the cat's already getting inappropriately behaviorally aroused and the leader, that's you, uses an agitated tone to reprimand, all you're going to do is drive that inappropriate agitation even higher. And the best thing to do if you see behavior like that, as Rita would say in her story, when Kitty Girl would get twitchy, or if your cat starts getting tense, or maybe even begins to, claw at you, for example, is ignore and immediately stand up. If your cat's on your lap, you stand up and your cat drops onto the floor, and of course they land on their feet. Don't worry that they're going to get hurt. You stand up and you walk away. But the first thing you do in every case is completely ignore, so that the cat does not come away believing that the behavior has earned a response from the leader. You are not making the mistake of unintentionally validating the behavior by responding. You're simply ignoring, standing up, and walking away, and the cat goes, oh gee, I had an interaction going here and I must have screwed it up because it's gone. And just like I taught Rita, remember, I taught her that when she saw behavior she didn't want, she would completely ignore Kitty Girl, and when Kitty Girl was calm and relaxed and did something appropriate, she would give Kitty Girl a treat. Always very calmly though, okay? And that cat can learn. So here are the things don't do. When cats start behaving badly, Carolyn, would you hand me one of our indoor hunting feeders? Or two of them? When a cat starts getting agitated, you do not swat or slap or yell. It's always great fun when you're in bed and the cat's on the bed and you move your fingertips or your toes under the covers and your cat swats at that and you go, geez, we're having fun, aren't we? Your cat is engaged in predatory behavior with the unpredictable movement under the covers. And your cat, by the scent of your fingers and your toes, can learn to associate that action with your anatomy, your scent. And we never want our cats to associate anything but gentleness and kindness and love with parts of human anatomy. We are teaching them the wrong thing if we use any part of our body to trigger their predatory response, and they are all inveterate predators. It's just part of who they are. They have to because, well, they might have to survive on rodents, right? So we don't wave our fingers to play with our cats. We don't do these things with our toes and our fingers under the covers. We never swat at them, and we don't rehome them, and we don't euthanize them, and we don't declaw them either. So, and if you get stuck, you contact a veterinary behaviorist, okay? Because the medical specialties, we're trained in research, and there are answers for these things that we custom fit to the individual. So let me just close by encouraging everybody to take the time to bring out the best in our pets, to build a foundation of freedom and choice and trust. And that we're not going to ask our pets to do something just for us. Because just like people, they can become obstinate if their leader only wants their needs met. Just like everything else, there needs to be something in it for them. Just like what Rita did with Kitty Girl. There was always something in it for her. And so, you can, at any point in the relationship with a pet, again, just like Rita, you can bring out the best. You can build trust. And that way your pet never believes that you're going to intimidate.
Rita just checked in.
And Rita, thank you. I hope I didn't make too big a spectacle of everything wonderful you've done for your cat and for other people's cats too. But thank you for checking in. And Isabel, of course they can figure out the cardboard box. Let's see, there we go. And no doubt cats can be trained. Entirely agree with you, dear Dr. Nickel. We must Always remember, however, that in ancient times, cats were worshipped as gods, and they have never forgotten this. Isabella, I'm sure you have a good point there. So, and by the way, if anybody's interested in reading the entire position statement on declawing by the American Association of Feline Practitioners, later this evening I will post a link to that on my Facebook page, and you can read the whole thing. It's not long, but it's very well done, and it's a handy thing to share with other cat people in your life, family and friends who also love cats. Any questions you have, anything else, you're very welcome to post it on my Facebook page. And I invite you to subscribe to my website, because if you do, every Tuesday morning in your email inbox, you will get my weekly media blog, which is my newspaper column that's in the Albuquerque Journal the week previous. And you'll get my Facebook Live recording from the week before. And you can subscribe to my website. Just go to Dr. Jeff Nichol, Dr. Jeff, Nichol. And at the bottom of the homepage, you can click subscribe. Costs nothing. And when you do, I will send you, no charge, my at-home pet first aid and CPR guide, which is worth printing out and sticking to the fridge just in case you need it. So thanks for sharing a little time with me, and thanks for loving your cats, and have a wonderful week. And Miss America, say goodnight. Tony, Gaston's over. He's about to jump back up on the table. These cats are in motion. We give them enrichments here during Facebook Lives just to keep them out of trouble, set them up for success. So thank you again, and don't forget to wear your mask.